Well, hello, you guys. Welcome back. So, today we're going to do a tour of Tour 15 Side Yard Gardens. I am in love with this side yard. I cannot wait to share it with you guys. Side yards have become my go to for designing recently because, you know, normally we do a lot of front yard gardens, we do a lot of backyard gardens, but now with having a side yard area that's pretty much overall wasted space. You know, there's really nothing to draw you over to your side yard. It's kind of where you house your pool equipment or your AC unit. But in this particular spot, we were able to take a grass path that housed equipment and create a nice little destination. So I cannot wait to walk through and share that with you. So today we have Bryce back, and he's going to be doing the filming. Woo. And Bryce, before we get started with the tour, do you kind of want to just walk through, do a little, just kind of a little sneak peek of what we're going to be looking at in the side yard?
Backyard.
So this is exactly what Sharon was dealing with. She really didn't have much of a backyard to speak of because the pool pretty much took over the whole backyard, and it gave her the idea to kind of do something along the side yard and create her own space here, and I think that's exactly what we accomplished. So we took up all the grass, we brought in some Tahitian gray granite, some beautiful flagstone, inset the flagstone all the way from the gate to the pool screen, and then did gardens on either side of it. So it's really something that she enjoys. She's already had most of her neighbors here walking through the path and enjoying the water feature, and just she has some of the best neighbors here in Sapphire Lakes. It's just been such a cool spot to sit and relax and share this garden with them. They've just been, I don't know, they've been awesome. So the main reason why Sharon wanted to do a garden over on this side is because she does enjoy sitting out here. Originally, I'll get Bryce to slide in a before picture of the pretty much nothing but grass that was here originally. And then, but when she sat here, she had a pretty direct view of the house right across her. And that was her main, that house is pretty much facing her whole side yard. And normally that would be fine if you don't spend much time out here, but considering Sharon did not have a backyard to work with, she really did want to kind of create a side yard space that would give her buffering, give her gardens, give her, some magic back here, some nostalgia. So she's got a beautiful space to do that with, and I can't wait to share with you guys the plants and the trees and kind of what we chose to put here. I will, because of the comments, I will kind of explain a little bit about each plant and tree grouping, kind of overall what size they grow into, just a little bit of information about that collective grouping and kind of why I chose to put them and where I chose to put them. So that way, if you guys are looking to do a shopping list or looking to kind of, get some research on what you might do for your own garden, this might be really helpful for you. And then, of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. If this is kind of your thing, you love looking at gardens, you're sitting there with your glass of wine or your cup of coffee, depending on what time of day it is. Look at how I gauge everything according wine and coffee, gauge the times of days.
Don't forget to hit that notification bell
and
too.
Don't forget to hit the notification bell.
Whenever we post.
So, as Bryce says, so you know when we post. So I look forward to seeing you guys in all of these videos. And if there's a video out there or there's a spot in your garden that you're looking to tackle, then please leave in the comments down below, because we're always looking for ideas. We're always trying to, brainstorm what is going to be a cool thing to share with our gardening community. Do you guys like privacy buffers? Are you really, trying to conceal a pool area maybe? Do you like your neighbors, but do you not want them to answer the question that you're asking your wife or your husband over there by yelling across the pool at you, which is what one of my clients said to me recently. So if you're looking for privacy, then definitely don't skimp on your coverage out here with some natural live material, because that's what really creates and enfolds a space together. So I'm going to share with you what I chose for Sharon's garden, and we'll kind of just go from there. So, all right, so here we are. Bryce is standing right at the edge of the gate. So this is the entry point. My truck right there is obviously the driveway section. So this is how all of her guests enter the space. And right to the left here, Bryce, you'll see that we have some Panama Rose. These are beautiful, delicate little flowers that mature out to around 3 foot tall. Keep them a nice clustering around 3 foot. Now, when I say they mature out to it, that means that you can keep them maintained at 3.5 foot tall without them becoming a woody stem of nothing. That means that they'll be bushy, they'll be lush, they'll be full, and they can stay at 3.5 foot tall by being trimmed that way. That doesn't mean they'll stop growing. In Florida, everything just keeps growing. But they have the ability to be maintained and stay beautiful. Now, to the back right there, we have the Brazilian Red Cloaks, which are my favorite plants of all time. I just love what they do in the garden. They are going to reach up to, I think Sharon's going to let them get around 6 foot and completely engulf that whole corner of the side yard area. So you're going to see, she's going to see that from inside. And then her neighbors are going to see that pretty much from the outside. So it'll be a nice clustering of that hot pink cone-shaped flower right there. She does have a philodendron that's sitting there. That was one thing that we took out of the garden that we didn't find a place for, so that's going to a neighbor. So that's the Brazilian Red Cloaks are going to fill in this whole spot. This came from another part of Sharon's yard that we didn't want to dispose of. It was still healthy and happy. It's going through a little bit of transplant shock, but it is going to come back and be just that gorgeous bright white coloring in the garden. I love the fragrance, the smell. I try to put gardenias near a seating section or near a gated entrance, because just being hit with that right off the bat, I don't know, it just says welcome. You know, it's just one of those fantastic things. And if you guys have gardenias in your landscape and they're in full bloom and they're just going to town, clip a few of those blooms off, put them in a bowl of water on your kitchen counter, and your whole kitchen smells like gardenias. It's just, oh, I just love it. So I've got 3 of these guys near my seating sections, and during this time of the year, I've got gardenia smell in bathrooms and kitchens, and I just love it. So, and then we finished it off with a little clustering again of Panama Rose. So imagine as this whole grouping connects and grows together, these Panama Roses are going to be around 3 foot tall. Then you have this nice little bulbous kind of feature as the middle accent in the garden, and she's going to let this be around 5 foot little tree here, and that'll be a nice dark green when it's not in bloom and a beautiful green and white when it is. And then back to the pink on the corner where it goes 3 foot, and then backdrop of all of that beautiful glory, all of that beautiful color of the Brazilian Red Cloaks. So it'll be a nice entry and a nice ending point when you're looking from the garden this way. So hopefully Sharon will have us back for a tour, and that way we can share that with you guys. Now this area obviously is very empty, and I'm not showcasing the mulch here. What's happened here? This is phase 2 of the garden. So we have been able to pop in some gorgeous sun-loving plants, but Sharon is a woman after my own heart. She does not mind waiting to get what she wants, and that's exactly what she did with this particular spot right here. This is a spot that we are waiting for this tree to pop out a little further. We started trimming it down below here, so it's going to kind of overhang, almost bonsai style, kind of come out this way during the summer, and we're going to keep trimming it under here. That way we get a nice patch of shade in this spot. And she wants to come in with some alocasias, some shade-loving farfugiums, some ground orchids, some things like that in this particular spot of the garden. But what we need to do is we need to wait for this to grow into its roll. And then we need to wait for the Alfredii Palm across from it to do the same. That way we have shade on both sides of the pathway, and it's going to do a good job of offering her a variety of different plants within her garden. So I love that she's patient enough to wait for that to happen. Speaking of trees, this guy right here is a cold coconut palm, also known as Alfredii Palm. It is a very similar look to coconut palms. However, it is a much slower grower. So it gets anywhere between 6 to 8 inches of growth a year. It's very slow. Right now, you can notice that it's doing a little bit of transplant shock. That is the negative to a slow growing tree, is it does not bounce back as quickly as a typical coconut palm would, for instance. It's going to take a little bit more time, but give it that 6 months to a year in the garden, and then that canopy really starts to unfold. You'll start to notice that popping out, and I'll get Bryce to slide in a picture of what those look like when they're established and growing in. They always have a very little trunk to them, but the canopies are just broad and gorgeous. So this guy is going to cast so much shade across the garden this way that we just know what he's going to do. So it's going to be a lovely punch in the garden. right here, we have a little bit of a dry spot for Sharon's irrigation. So this zone that she's on, and you guys keep this in mind when you're doing your own gardening, this zone is not really providing a whole lot of coverage. We do have 2 heads on each corner, but we didn't have enough for heads to go along this middle, enough pressure. So what I chose to do is this is going to be a patch of a drier, kind of fun-loving plant grouping. This is Dwarf Helen Johnson Bougainvillea. And look at these blooms on these, you guys. They're just stunning. They're such a fun bloomer all year long. You can maintain these at 3.5 foot. So they are dwarfed bougainvillea. They do have the thorns, but I think they're going to make a fantastic, I would say, glorified hedge, because that's kind of what they turn into. They're kind of, you can see the swoop I have as a backdrop here, and then I did a really nice clustering of yellow thryallis in the middle. Now these are not in bloom, but these bloom a beautiful yellow tasseled flower. They're a fantastic native plant. They're going to really draw in the butterflies like crazy. So, and then of course they like the dry weather, so they're going to do well with a lack of irrigation. So, this whole area right here will do well with just, after it's established, well with just rainwater. So, right here, I don't know if you guys remember from when Bryce was doing the walking area or the quick walkthrough that this opens up to a little seating section. On each side of the seating section and on the corner of where the walkway starts to turn in both areas, I chose to put a single King Alexander. The single King Alexander is just a sturdy little tree. I swear they look like soldiers in the garden. I just love their upright, very vertical, very dynamic frond canopy. I think they're just such a cool tree. And what they do for me is they kind of create a kind of like an umbrella feel in the garden. So you have, these like resort style umbrellas, and then so it's nothing but a clean trunk, and then you got that great canopy above you. So these are the biggest ones that we could get into this location. I would have loved to have them about 2 foot taller, but as I mentioned, Sharon's a fantastic patient gardener, so she knows what they're going to do in a matter of a year. They'll be up and over us. I told her we could cut these fronds, but she's just like me. And she goes, I'd just rather go under them. So it's fine. So just because they're just so beautiful. But so the pathway curves around, giving us a reason to go around. And I love it when you look from the gate, looking down the walkway path. You see this as almost like an interruption between this and the mimosa. Both of those are giving you kind of a nice interruption. So you kind of see a little bit about what's going on back there, but not see the whole thing, which Sharon's neighbors have absolutely done throughout the whole project. They pop through in the evenings and they've just walked through this garden, and I'm like, we're almost done. We're almost done. But she's entertained and enjoyed sitting here with her neighbors so much, and I love getting the pictures. I love hearing that, because I think that this is exactly what these spaces are for. They're for you to create those memories and moments and get people outside. So I think that's a great. It's a great testament to any landscape designer when you can see pictures of people and enjoying your space that was originally a wasted space, that was originally a space that you didn't even notice. And of course, Florida lots are at a premium here. So to me, it's all about making use of every possible location of your yard. That's why I've landscaped my entire space, my entire yard. I love more intimate styles on the side, and then opens up to big tropical landscapes in the back, more pared back, fun tropical landscapes in the front, and that's just my style. And so I'm so glad that I get to do that across across the Treasure and Space Coast for a lot of my customers, because I get to see a lot of it on YouTube. So, and I'm hoping this shares a lot of inspiration for you guys to get out in your garden and do the same thing. So, okay, back to the tour. So, this is another Alfredii Palm. And these palms to the back are pygmy dates. And I know I feature pygmy date palms in my garden a lot, and I'm about to just kind of remind you why. So this, where Bryce is standing and you guys are standing, is the seating section right here. And she's going to do a fire pit and a few chairs and entertain her neighbors here. And this is going to be her relaxing point. However, this area circles. Oh, wow. Sorry, you guys. It looks like our Air Force is doing a bit of practicing today. Isn't it amazing? Some of those formations that we've seen while we were sitting here doing these takes. It's been phenomenal. We keep starting, and then that comes through, and then we stop, and then we start, we stop. So this is about take 5, I think, Bryce. So because we were trying to get some of that sound down, but anyway, so these pygmy date palms are they're about 5 foot tall now, but they're going to mature out to about 12 foot tall. So when they do that, the trunks themselves will be about 3.5, maybe 4 foot in height. And then the canopy is the remainder of that height. So you get a solid canopy grouping. These 3 will hammock behind this tree and become a solid wall of fronds, which pretty much makes that big bright house that's facing directly across from her seating section go away. Between this and this tree, it's really going to be a nice clustering of jungle palms that's really going to soften her space. And you'll notice that we tried to work with the landscape that she had. She's got 2 oak trees that they planted, and that's not her yard, that's the common area. But we're going to utilize that. So you see the first Alfredii Palm is in the gap between these 2 oak trees, and then we have a big clustering in the gap between the other 2 oak trees. So that way we kept and borrowed the landscaping from the common area, and really only hit the hot spots that we needed to. And then we also were able to doll up underneath what those oak trees are going to grow in and do. And this garden is going to become such a beautiful, thick garden of different kinds of foliage, different kinds of trees. It's just, I cannot wait to come back and share it with you guys, because I know Sharon will have us back to do an updated tour in a year or so that way you guys get to see it all grown in. So because we did such a heavy clustering of palms right here, we kind of manipulated a full sun environment to a very filtered light. I mean, so I would have never been able to plant this plant collection here had we not put in what we put in here, because I know this tree is not a regular coconut palm and is not going to outgrow this spot and take the shade away because it continues to grow high and become kind of more of a beanpole. It's going to always stay wide and thick and dense, which is going to create a nice dense shade canopy for this little splotch of plant groupings. So between the pygmies and the Alfredii Palm, this area is going to be fantastic for a little pop of dark tropicals. We've got Farfugium in the back, those big giant leaves, also known as giant leopard's ear. Then we've got bird's nest ferns with that lime green color just below them. What a cool leaf these guys have. I love their upright look. And just so you guys know, those can also, they grow fantastic in the ground, they grow fantastic in the shade, they grow fantastic in moist areas, but they also grow great on palm or oak trees. You can actually put them right on the tree like you do an orchid, wrap it, and it'll grow just like that all the way up a tree. And it is so very cool. So that's my next project in my yard. So I'm going to put some of them on my coconut palm. So I'll have to share that with you guys later. But on each side, these are Imperialis Bromeliads, and we know those get about 3 by 3, so they don't get very tall, they don't reproduce. They're just kind of a really cool upright look in the garden, very dark and dynamic with that purple. And then a Foxtail Agave. And then we brought in a couple boulders to kind of just give the space a little bit of that dazzle right here, and tie in with the water feature and the boulders that we chose there. We do have a little pop of clustering of Margaret Bromeliads on each side. And then we have some poor ruby reds that are not dead, but the rabbits have seemed to really enjoy eating them. So I'm gonna have to fight the rabbits on those poor guys. And then this area is more open. You can see that this area gets a great deal more sun. So we did the sun-loving plants over in this spot. So we've got the Panama Rose, so that nice 3.5 foot grouping that's gonna go right here. Then we've got fire spikes, and you guys probably saw my fire spike video of what mine look like. These unfortunately are not in bloom yet, but gosh, they are just stunners. They're chunky, they're strong, they're going to be beautiful in the garden. Hummingbirds love them, and butterflies like these Panama roses, and the butterflies love the blue days. So this whole grouping right here is going to be butterfly and hummingbird heaven when everything's in bloom. So these blew my minds. We've got a little bit of color on this one here, but again, we're fighting the rabbits on the tasty little blew my minds. So as we move up, we have a third and final Alfredii Palm. And in the back, we've got some nice sloppy painters, and she's going to let those fill out, and I'll get Bryce to slide in a matured picture of what those look like when they're grown. But they really do, they're always a very vertical plant, but they really do thicken up and connect together. That's why I plant them in that triangle formation like you see, because they will be a nice backdrop of that golden color. I just love that cool, crazy, messy look. And they're going to do a nice job of that. And then we put one Brazilian red cloak directly behind the tree in the shadiest part. That way it's a little bit protected, and that's going to fill in that gap. Because we have yellow and the light colors back there, I chose a swath of the blaze copperleaf. Those are really going to do a nice job of connecting together, becoming real nice and dense in that spot, and just a really, really nice thick grouping. You're not going to see much of the mulch in this spot at all. We've decorated it up with a little bit of pentas along this front and just inset a couple boulders. And then we open up to the main feature here. So we have two kinds of stone here. We kept the stone to show you that this is a vista that is also part of the seating section over there. She's going to put a couple chairs here. This is going to be an area that she already enjoys, but she's going to really, really enjoy this spot for sitting out and watching the fountain. She sent me pictures of it lit up at night. Each of those basalt columns have lights inside. I swear it looks like they're on fire out here, fire and water. It's just so stunning. So this is a seating section here. And you know, I think I mentioned this in a previous video, but I thought I would again. This rock, this Tahitian gray granite, which you guys know I love to use, especially on pathways. I use this rock because it does this. And when you can walk on this, I mean, you can put flagstone on it, but you can actually just step on it and it just crushes together real nice because it's not a round rock. It has multiple different sizes. It really knits together, really compacts really, really well. And it comes in a variety of sizes. If you don't have a dog and you don't have to worry about it being dug up, you can use the real small size because that is, to me, the best size. It lays the tightest. But I worry about Joy, which is Sharon's dog, because she's a playful, beautiful big dog. And so I was worried about all those little shards, you know, end up missing. So I chose the middle ground. So this is the 1/2 inch, and it holds together just as nicely, but it's a little heavier. So hopefully that'll help her kind of keep it more intact. However, what I would never use is something like the white river rock, because this rock is pretty difficult to walk on. It makes tons of noise. It sinks. Even though this is the bigger rock, this is going to be something that I always use as a landscape rock. It's a decorative rock. It's perfect for mixing and matching, you know, kind of really making this more of its own space, but it's definitely not something you would want to walk on. So if you can avoid using a round rock for that, it's a super, super big difference. Probably not picking up very much on camera, but I promise you it's just so much easier to put chairs and fire pits and whatnot on this rock and walk on it versus this one here. So I hope that helps you guys if you're thinking about that in your own garden. But this little sweep is turned into its own space. So when we first got here, Sharon was telling me how much she did not like this rise in elevation, how this berm really bugged her all the time, but that's what the builder left her with a berm that leads up to this really thin berm along the backside here. And they did that for drainage reasons. They wanted everything to drain to a low spot in the garden. So it left this a mucky mess, which is a part of the reason why we started out with rock. Rock does a great job of kind of really drying out a space, and that's what it did here. However, we still needed to leave a low spot in the garden because we didn't want to change the elevation. We didn't want to really jack with any of that to make sure that we're not putting neighbors or anybody off. So we kept that low spot. That was the original low spot in the garden that literally just was a moldy, just mess. There is a tank down below there. It does feed out into the garden. We have one drain that goes this way, and then we have one drain that goes out just to the edge of the fence line. So we've gotten the water away from the house. We've kept this elevation, and then we created on this berm its own little vista with the water feature and a little plant grouping, and just a spot that's almost like a little pedestal in the garden. I just love how this is kind of like the crown of the garden. It's a perfect little ending point. It's a spot that she says that they gravitate to when she's entertaining all the time. So I'm so glad that she's enjoying it. And again, at night, it is just a stunner. We repurposed her coconut palm tree that you see in the back there. We put it in the back to kind of be the finial in the back space there. And then because it gave us some shade, we ended up using some Rojo Congos down below. And then some sun-loving bromeliads right to the front. We repurposed a couple of her palm trees. The Thatch Palm here. It's going through a little bit of transplant shock, but I think it's going to be okay. And then we've got a Thatch Palm over there that we reused. These were the things that were in her garden that were still looking good, but just kind of needed their own spot. So we amended this soil like crazy, and everything here is very, very happy. So I'm really, really, really pleased with it. To go back to this water feature, this is a triple basalt column from Aquascape, so I'll be sure to put the link down below. It is a 100-gallon reservoir that sits below the ground. It circulates water from that reservoir up into individual of those columns. Inside each of those columns, there is a light that shines nice and bright at night, so it looks like I said, fire and water, which is so cool. And then, of course, because I didn't have enough stone options in a small space, I ended up putting the Indian Creek rock right there. So that Indian Creek rock is a nice round rock that just shows off water, and I thought it blended so well with the color of the basalt columns. So I think it's great. This, see if you can get this, Bryce. This piece of driftwood here was from Sharon's husband. He had found it in the Keys several years ago, and it was in the garden kind of off to the side, and I was like, I'm going to use that. I just don't know how. And then when we finally started setting and playing with it, it became the forefront. It became the first thing that you saw within the garden, and we kind of just worked around it. So if you're looking straight on from that space, you really do get a good visual of how that plays up. I love natural elements in the garden. And I was telling Sharon that once we put some mimosas in there, and I'm hoping they're going to climb around it a little bit, but once we get a little bit more shade in this sun area, I think we can just take some moss and start growing on there. And then that way just, again, adds to that natural look of the space. So, oh, I did forget of the ice plants, didn't I? Okay, this is a ground cover that I don't know, it gets underutilized. I don't know why. This is a fantastic ground cover that is variegated ice. It blooms that beautiful, beautiful pink flower. This plant can grow in a succulent garden with very, very little water. And then the weird thing is it can grow if you just take the soil off of the roots and you put it in a pot of water, it'll grow in that space too. I have it growing in my pond, I have it growing in my waterfall, and I have it growing in my succulent garden, and I'm astonished with its versatility. It's just pretty amazing how well it does in all of those environments. So if there's a ground cover that you're looking for that you just need it to be tough, the only thing it does need is it does so much better in the sun. So it can handle full sun, it can handle partial sun, but really, besides that, it just doesn't show up as well. So, and if you have a rock garden, they will climb all over the rocks, which I love because sometimes rock can be too much. So having some soft patches of that, it comes in green and it comes variegated. So you can use it either way. And I just think it's a gorgeous plant to work with. So, but I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you have a side yard you're ready to tackle, and it gives you some inspiration on what can be done with your typical basic subdivision side yard, because I'm learning to really love designing these. I just think that they show up. So just a little interruption, you guys. I thought I'd pop over to the other side and share with you real quick a few of my favorite pollinators, a few really, really cool butterfly plants that we did for Sharon on the opposite side of the pool deck. So this is just adjacent to just where we were, and Sharon did, she enjoys, you can tell she enjoys sitting out in her space. She really enjoys her yard. So being able to see the butterflies, we have a little bit of butterfly plants over there, but over here, the garden just comes alive with butterfly plants. So this is allocated to all of the little pollinators. It's a little starter space. I'll slide in a before picture. Not a very big area, but we were able to get in a nice little clustering of plants. We've got mixes of lantanas here. This lantana tree is just adorable. It is so cute. And then a mixing of lantana just down below. And then, of course, the blue mimines the rabbits have made their way over here, but these are blue mimines trailing this side. And then some pentas. And then backdrop with some porterweed over here. So, oh, look, see, evidence, look at the butterfly. Well, that was it. We are really, really getting a lot of nice color here, and it's just a nice little area for her to enjoy. I hope that maybe a little bench ends up here, Sharon. That would be a great little spot just to sit in the afternoon and, sit amongst the blooms. How cool is that? And there's a little pop out over there, Bryce. And you can kind of see that this is pretty much your typical narrow side yard section. So there's a citrus tree in the middle. I think Sharon said that was a Myers lemon tree, and then we've got some golden shrimp plants and some more pentas. Popped in a little thryallis over there, and a couple little daisies. So it's kind of just a nice little addition to her other side section. This is definitely allocated to really enjoy the butterflies. Oh, look over there, the butterflies and the birds. And I think everybody deserves a little nook of that, right? So, all right, we'll get back to the regular video. I just wanted to pop over here real quick because I have a little ADD, and I wanted to make sure that I did get the little pollinator video in. Okay.